Welcome. Good morning to South Church worship service. I am the Reverend Susan Suchocki Brown, the interim minister here. I'm so glad that you could join us this morning for this worship service. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we're based on principles and purposes that help us to live better lives and be better people. And we're glad that you could be with us this morning. This morning I am joined by worship associate Bob Vacarro and by Bret Newbury, who will be delivering the message. We are so glad that you could join us. Know that you're not alone. You're held in our thoughts and our prayers. Bob?
So besides me, there's a group of people who put the service together, and in a way, the real worship associate is Pip Clues, who does the videography of this event. Luckily, she's young enough. I've known her since she was a toddler, so that she is the tech savvy person in our church. Our director of lifespan education, Kirsten Hunter. Our religious education coordinator, Jen Del Deo. Our music director, Joanne Connolly, Susan Adams, who provide music. And last but not least, our Bret Newbury, who I want to say few things about what we'll be doing the sermon. So Bret was born the same year as my son Brian, and he grew up in Booth Bay, Maine, the son of a Harvard-educated businessman who became legally blind when Bret was just a toddler and had to quit work. When Bret was in the first grade, his parents separated, after which he lived with his mom during the school year and his dad summers. Bret attended Rensselaer Polytech to study mechanical engineering, but switched after 2 years to the University of Maine so he wouldn't be in debt for decades. He met Angela Newbury in 2003. Now, Angela grew up in South Church. In fact, she was born the year that Jackie and I joined South Church in 1980. And they became South Church members 2 years later. They were married in a non-denominational church in Squirrel Island, Maine, in order to accommodate his dad, who was by then completely blind. Bret works at the shipyard as a trainer. In fact, he gave up a supervisory job in order to have more time with his family, who now consists of 3 children, ages 2 to 10. And during this pandemic, he's working from home, saving an hour every day of commute time to give more time for his family and for us. In fact, he's going to become a worship associate this summer. Now for announcements.
This is your friendly weekly reminder that even though the Pocket Garden Tour has moved to September, you can still purchase blooms now to be listed in the ticket brochure. Check out the South Church website to purchase your blooms and to find out more information. The Endowment Committee is debuting their information page on the South Church website. Under the Giving heading, you can find information about planned giving. The committee would like to ask everyone who has left a legacy gift to South Church to please fill out a Penhollow Society form so that we can assure that all of our records are accurate. Even if you think you've filled out a form in the past, please make sure to fill out a new one. Any questions can be directed to the Endowment Committee at endowment@southchurch-uu.org. And for this upcoming weekly challenge, we want to see a picture of a small detail of your daily life. Maybe it's the sun hitting a sculpture in your garden, your slippers, something that sits on your desk, or anything else that is a tiny element of your life. Please send your photos to Jen Del Deo by Thursday morning at jendeldeo@southchurch-uu.org. And now a special rose of recognition from Dave Drucker.
Hi, Dave Drucker here on behalf of the Small Group Ministry Steering Committee and your South Church Board of Trustees to give well-deserved virtual roses of recognition to South Church members who have given their time and energy to making the Small Group Ministry program the success that it is. Small Group Ministry is a way you may broaden and deepen your spiritual journey in community twice a month with others who are seeking to do the same. If you're interested in furthering your own exploration, look for us as summer winds down and we begin to take steps to form groups for the fall. You'll be most welcome to join us. We're nothing if not flexible. Our 8 groups with upwards of 70 participants have transitioned to Zooming sessions and will continue to do so until the COVID-19 environment we're all continuing to adapt to allows physical interaction at individual physical locations once again. And now, it's my great pleasure to thank all the people who committed time, energy, insight, and a sense of humor to our program, opening their minds and hearts and those of the members of their small groups. Here are the conveners of this year's groups and the physical venue they started out with last fall when the programs began. Angela Matthews, Dover Rollinsford. Laurie Bildy, Kittery Point. Bob Vacarro, Kittery. Tracy Clarkson, Portsmouth. Lance Hellman, Portsmouth. Joanne Holman, Portsmouth. Rita Weathersby, Portsmouth. And me, Dave Drucker, in Dover. Our year would not have been the success it was without our session writers, who included, besides myself, Laurie Bildy, Angela Matthews, and Jonathan Cummings. I and the other members of the Small Group Ministry Steering Committee, Rita Weathersby, Greg Wirtz, and Jessica LaRoche, thank you for witnessing our virtual Rose of Recognition ceremony and extend an invitation to you to check out what Small Group Ministry has to offer you in the fall. Perhaps we'll see each other then. May you be safe and well, whatever the future has in store for you.
Now I walk in beauty. Beauty is before me. Beauty is behind me, above and below me. Now I walk in beauty. Beauty is before me. Beauty is behind me, above and below me. Now I walk in beauty. Beauty is before me, beauty is behind me, above and below me.
For my opening words, I want to talk about my experience with a long water-only fast and its similarities to the forced restrictions we are living with during this pandemic. I first read about the benefits of fasting in my 20s, late 20s, when a friend of mine loaned me Arnold Ehret's book titled The Mucusless Diet. In this book, Ehret advocates a whole plant-based food diet, and which called to me then, and still does. He also advocated fasting to cleanse and heal the body. However, I didn't act on this part of his message until my 50s, when I had my first experience with fasting with our minister, Reverend Marta Flanagan, who organized an annual 3-day fast for members of South Church. More than the self-awareness and other spiritual benefits, I do recall feeling as so much less achy after these fasts. Fast forward to this past February, when in a last-ditch effort to avoid another hip replacement, I, along with my husband Dan, sipped only water for 21 days at a fasting retreat center in Costa Rica. During this, these 21 days, we were discouraged from socializing, from reading, from all exercising, including yoga, and encouraged instead to rest as much as possible with eyes closed and to sip one large glass of water every awake hour. The idea was to give the body maximum opportunity to heal whatever needed healing. As difficult as those 21 days were, battling boredom and extreme fatigue, the hardest time for me was day 5 during the 8 days of refeeding. The refeeding started easily enough by eating 1 ounce of watermelon 5 times a day for the first day, and then increasing the ounces of watermelon and other fruits day by day. and reducing the number of meals to 3 meals per day by day 3. By day 5, however, I had so much intestinal discomfort that I got little, if any, sleep and needed to skip one of the fruit meals entirely. Our fasting guru and coach chided me for skipping this meal and had a ready explanation for my intense discomfort, including that my body was probably not quite ready to start refeeding when we did. In fact, the average fast at his center is 26 days with 11 days of refeeding, and several of our co-fasters were there for weeks longer. The message I want to share, as some of the restrictions on our pandemic lives are released, is that our spirits might not be ready for returning to certain aspects of normal. The second message is that, given how busy I have become since our return from Costa Rica, I wish I would have embraced and appreciated more the forced downtime while we were there. A chalice will be lit this morning by Angela Newbury and her and Bret's daughters, Dahlia, age 10, and Rosalie, who's about to turn 7, and if we're lucky, maybe Simon, who's age 2. Angela was a member of this church from infancy to age 9. During those years, her parents, Faith and Doug Bartlett, were active in the church. Faith taught RE, and Doug volunteered to clean the church when there wasn't money in the budget for a sexton. At age 9, the family moved from downtown Portsmouth to Stratham, and with Doug's deterioration of health, Faith had to work 2 jobs. So fast forward to when Angela and Bret got together. They were looking for a place a venue to meet good people that was different than bars. And Angela suggested South Church. Bret was reluctant, but at the first sermon they attended alluded to The Simpsons, and Bret thought, oh, this would be a good church for them. Since then, Angela has been active teaching in the RE program, and she was a pastoral associate for 3 2-year terms. Chalice Lighting words. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, each day new developments, rising numbers, changing guidelines, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down and topsy-turvy, we light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the flaming chalice came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a secret symbol that offered help. In the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community. Now I invite you to recite along with me the words that are on your screen for our mission statement. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community.
Hi, everybody. We're back again to tell you another story. This story was written actually by a member of our congregation named Ammann. He sent it in to us, and both Jen and I thought this was a great story to use this month as we explore the theme of thresholds, that kind of space between one place and another. And in particular, this story kind of digs into what we do when we're afraid, or how we might face our fears. So the story is titled The Squirrel Who Was Afraid of Heights. Jimmy the squirrel lived in Audrey's backyard. He was born in a cozy nest of leaves, way up in a giant white oak tree. His was a big family of squirrels who lived in the tree. He had many brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, and cousins of all sorts. The young squirrels loved to run up and down the tree and leap from branch to branch. was practice for when they were grown and had to gather acorns on their own. But Jimmy was different. He didn't like to run up and down the tree and absolutely would not jump from branch to branch. He was afraid of heights. Now, being afraid of heights, that's a real problem for a squirrel, as you can imagine. All day, he would cling to a branch near the nest and refuse to move. His mom and dad and brothers and sisters and cousins all tried to coax him, but he wouldn't budge.
Eventually, the other squirrels got tired of getting acorns for him to eat, especially his brothers and sisters who were given this task by their parents. "I am not going to get any more acorns for you," said his sister Mary. "And I'm not going to get you any acorns either," said his brother Fred. "And we aren't either," said his mother, father, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Now his family thought this was tough love. They thought that it would force Jimmy to run up and down the tree and leap from branch to branch if he got hungry enough. But they were wrong. Jimmy was just too afraid of heights to move, and so he just got hungrier and hungrier. After a while, he got so hungry that he began to shake, and eventually he shook so hard that he lost his grip and fell right out of the tree.
Now, as it happened, Audrey was sitting on the ground under that very oak tree, having a picnic with some of her friends. The children were sitting in a circle on cushions that they had brought from the house. And just as Jimmy fell out of the tree, one of her friends had gotten up and run into the house for some mustard. And so he landed right in the middle of an open cushion. Ordinarily, Jimmy, being a squirrel, would have been afraid of being so close to the children, and he would have run right back up the tree. But Jimmy, being afraid of heights and also dazed from his fall, just sat there and looked at the children, and the children looked at him.
"Oh my," said Audrey. "I have never seen a squirrel fall out of a tree. Are you all right?" "I'm fine," said Jimmy. "I would not have fallen if my family had brought me acorns to eat. I got so hungry I started to shake and then I fell out of my tree." Said Audrey. "Aren't you old enough to get your own acorns?" "I certainly am," he replied. "But the fact of the matter is, I'm afraid of heights, so I just spend my time clinging to a limb next to our nest." Well, the children all laughed at this. Imagine a squirrel being afraid of heights. That's ridiculous. Jimmy started to cry, and if you've ever seen a squirrel cry, it's a terrible sight. He rocked back and forth, his tail flapped like a furry flag, and he emitted the most pitiful moans and sobs. The children immediately felt sad for him, and everyone started to shout advice at the same time.
Audrey, who felt she should take control of the situation because it was her yard and she was, by the tiniest margin, the oldest of the children, said in a firm but friendly voice, "We will help you overcome your fear of heights." "Oh, would you? I would like that very much," said Jimmy. "But how? When I am up in the tree and look down, I get very dizzy, and it's all I can do to hang on." Audrey thought for a moment. "I have read that the best way to overcome your fear is a little bit at a time. For now, you can live here on the ground, but each day I will watch you climb farther up the tree, one branch at a time. Right now, why don't you try to reach the lowest branch? I'll put a pillow here at the base of the tree in case you slip."
Well, Jimmy was really scared, but he was determined. So he hopped over to the tree in that funny little way that squirrels move on the ground. Looking up, he saw his family watching him. They were somewhat nervous, wondering what he was doing among the humans. He waved at them to say that he was all right, and slowly he grabbed hold of the tree trunk, and little by little, he worked his way up to the lowest branch. That wasn't so bad, he thought, and he jumped down and hopped back to Audrey. Audrey smiled. "That was great, Jimmy. You can sleep here in this nest I made out of my sweater. I'll be back tomorrow after school." So the next day, Jimmy climbed to the second branch under Audrey's watchful eye. And the day after that, he climbed to the third branch. Every day, except the following Tuesday when there was a huge thunderstorm, Jimmy climbed higher up the tree. One day he slipped and fell, but he landed on the pillow that Audrey had put down for him, so he wasn't hurt, and he climbed right back up the tree to the branch he was trying to get to that day.
After many days, he reached his family's leaf net way up in the tree. By this time, he'd overcome his fear of heights and began showing off by leaping from high branch to high branch. His family was very excited and happy to see him being so brave. He explained how the little girl had helped him overcome his fear of heights. They were all so grateful. They made a pile of the best acorns they could find at the base of the tree as a thank you gift. Being squirrels, they didn't know little girls don't eat acorns, but nevertheless, Audrey appreciated the spirit of the gift. Jimmy the squirrel grew up and had a family of his own, and so did Audrey, and they both always remembered that story of how Audrey helped Jimmy overcome his fear. And when their family and their children were old enough, they taught them that lesson of how important it is to help others to face their fears.
It's okay to be afraid of things, even if it seems like a silly thing to be afraid of. But when we have enough courage, we can take baby steps to cross those thresholds back to help us not be afraid. And it's especially helpful when other people are there to do that beside us. So we miss you very much, and we love you, and we can't wait to see you sometime soon.
Have a great day.
Now is our opportunity to give generously to the church we love, if we are able, and the church that gives back to us so much, even in this time of social and physical restrictions. This month, our plate is shared with NAMI New Hampshire. NAMI stands for National Association for Mental Illness. When our son was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1997, Jackie and I took great comfort from a 12-session course sponsored by NAMI New Hampshire, titled Family to Family. It was led by 2 family members who had close relatives with severe mental illness. We were so grateful for this course that we took the training to lead the course, which we did together for a couple of years, and then Jackie continued for a few more years. An example of an exercise that I still recall was we were asked to complete a simple mechanical task at our desk. And then behind us was somebody whispering words into our ears like we were unworthy over and over. And we're not worthy to be alive. Imagine, and so this, for example, helped us, understand, sympathize with what our son Brian was going through. So thank you for giving and following the prompts on your screen.
I'd like to invite you into some time of prayer with me. I know that sometimes it's hard to think about what prayer is, especially in these times. But for me, it's expressing those thoughts and those feelings that are ever on our mind. It's hard sometimes because we are grateful for all that we do have. We are blessed by family around us and by the coming of the springtime weather. And yet in the midst of all of this, time is so odd. And the circumstances that we're living in are so odd. Normally, you would be expressing your prayers right now, and I would be able to repeat back your prayers. But instead, we are doing this virtually. And so therefore, it's very important that you take the time after I'm done with my words to write your prayer needs in the chat line so that we can know what you're struggling with and know what you might need so that we can let you know that we're here for you. So let us be in prayer. Holy One of blessing of everything that is around and about us, and especially that which is inside, love, compassion, caring. People have brought forth their concerns in this past week, and I know that we want to hold especially those people who have expressed loss and illness and anxiety and concern. So I would invite you especially to hold in your heart Laura Montville, whose father died, Louise Cameron, and her son, daughter-in-law, and an unborn child, Jen Del Deo, grandfather, died. Catherine Peebles is wrestling with illness, hers and a beloved family member. Rebecca Hennessy has asked us to hold in our heart prayers for her mother, Fern, and we do so. Alice Trainer brought forward to us that she has a granddaughter with cystic fibrosis. And to Dina and Paul Strand, his mother was ill and died. And his dad died just a short while ago. We hold you in our thoughts. Lynn Santosusu is struggling and missing her mother. And boy, can we relate to missing people. All around us are deaths and illness and losses. Losses I don't even know about unless you tell us, unless you enter them. So many losses, so much illness, jobs, relationships, and other concerns, anxieties, frets, they're around us. But you need not be alone. We are here. We are here for you. You matter. It's hard to remember that sometimes when we're looking at all the suffering that's happening, but you matter, and your concerns are important, and we want to know what you're wrestling with. So we invite you to take time during the visual and during the music to let us know your prayer concerns. Let us know what you need so that you know you're not alone. Love is what will hold us together, and that compassion and care that we have for one another. May it be so. Amen.
I invite you now to relax and settle into your seat, your couch, or wherever you may be. Breathe in the cool, calm air. Imagine it filling your lungs and going all the way down to your stomach. Breathe out the hot, tense air, the energy of the week, of the day, of any situation that's been troubling you. And then breathe in again, feeling the rejuvenating spring air filling you up with new possibilities and new hope. When you breathe out again, imagine your energy being set free. Imagine your breath becoming part of the wind, blowing the clouds, rustling the leaves, carrying the bird songs. Imagine your energy contributing to the world around you, to nature, to all living things. Imagine yourself as part of the whole, and imagine yourself as one, separate from the whole, adding your energy to the whole by just being. And breathe. I am curious. Curiosity is a constant state of affairs for me. Curiosity has its pluses and minuses. It can be supremely uncomfortable. It can get you in trouble, like the ubiquitous monkey George. Apparently, it can be quite deadly for cats. It's a good thing they have another 8 lives to spare. But it also leads to discoveries. Without curiosities, questions go unasked, rocks go unturned, friends go unmet. Curiosity about the world around us has brought us the great philosophers, scientists, explorers, and story makers. Many of the myths that have been passed down through the generations were the result of people who were curious, but did not have the tools or the framework to understand why something happened. So they invented a story to explain what they saw. I have been curious about those myths. For example, I have asked myself many times what phenomenon led to so many cultures having stories about dragons. While all a bit different, there are enough similarities for me to wonder what they were trying to explain with large lizards that may or may not breathe fire. Spirits and ghosts are another fascinating idea from the common experience of loss that is a part of the human condition, no matter the society. And ghost stories still fascinate us to this day, as people continue to be curious about what happens to us when we are gone, and they retell stories of the strange and magnificent around campfires, in books, and in movies. Whole belief systems have arisen from curiosity. Curiosity about why we are here, how we got here, why good or bad things happen. They allowed the curious to develop explanations for these things that also showed us ways to live our lives to the perceived benefit of society. Looking back, I am curious as to why there end up being so many different ways that these explanations have formed into different religions, often that feel that they are the one true explanation. The best way I have found to answer this so far is a story that I once heard about bees. The story says a swarm of bees lands on a large stained glass window of a church. The bees have no way of experiencing the true nature of the inside of the church, so they can only know what they observe through the window. Some of the bees are on the red portion of the glass, others on the yellow, still more on the green or the blue. Not having any understanding of stained glass, the bees each believe that the inside of the church is the color they see through the section of glass that they are on. If they were to discuss it, they would disagree, each believing that they were correct based on their own experiences. They might even argue. The bees that saw the red would think that the bees that saw blue were wrong. The ones that saw yellow might even dislike the ones that saw green, if they argued enough. In the end, we are like those bees, seeing things through the colored glass of our own experiences. However, curiosity might just lead us to walk over to the next bee and look at it from their point of view. And then, just maybe, we will see through the same colored glass. In the modern world, it seems almost too easy to not go looking for another's point of view. You can get simple answers to questions rather than let curiosity lead the mind to the fantastic and wonderful. You can trap yourself in the echo chamber of social media and never see another point of view. Google can answer questions in a moment. Easy information has become the enemy of true curiosity, the type of curiosity that you stew upon and turn over in your head for days until you can put the pieces together for yourself. The curiosity that leads you to the library to spend hours researching what others have done and thought in order to make your own conclusions. The curiosity to stay up all night talking about the questions of the universe with your friends and family. The curiosity to pick up a religious text and read about the moral and ethical dilemmas of the past and how they have been dealt with through the ages. So why does the science and technology developed by those curious as to how the physical world works and curious about what they can do with that knowledge stifled curiosity? I can't give you a definite answer. I can only tell you what I think and what I have observed. What I have observed is that people I have met and talked to through South Church are still curious. Those that I have spent time with still grapple with questions, big and small, thinking critically about the information that they receive, evaluating it for a sense of truth, and forming their own ideas based on their examinations. So while the news, social media, and some of what we see in the world looks like a society that is settled for the comfortable and easy answer, I believe that curiosity is as strong as it has always been. I believe the popular narrative of people wanting easy solutions is just a subset that has always existed among those that lack the luxury of time and energy, among those that are overcome by the struggles that they face day to day, and those for which the discomfort of curiosity is just too much. How do we use this luxury of uncomfortable curiosity? How do we make it an advantage in a world where information travels on superhighways and we are constantly sold the easy answer? For this particular community, being a church, a spiritual home, curiosity is a superpower. We come together here every week to think about the big questions of an ethical life, of a strong support network, and a community that gives in ways that are more powerful than the sum of the individual contributions. We come together in committees and associate groups to answer the questions of how to keep our community strong. We join small group ministry to discuss how we all see and experience the world, how to navigate the daily issues of spirituality, contribution, and community. We come together in social groups to learn about each other. We come together to think about the things that get lost in the daily grind. We come together to think about the things that help us navigate the rest of the world. We come together in curiosity. In the wider community, curiosity has powers too. Curiosity about a change you see in the behavior of a friend or neighbor can lead you to give them the help they need in the instant that they may need it. Curiosity about why our officials are doing something we disagree with can lead us to activism, to voting for a better society. In this particular point in history, personal curiosity is there to protect us. Asking how to best protect ourselves and our families, what is and is not safe, what risks we are willing to take to live our lives as we desire. The answers may be given by government, by retail stores, by health practitioners, but they're just a starting point. They're a base requirement, if you will. Just because the rules say you can go into that hardware store, is the risk associated with that trip worth the item, the tools and materials that you're going to get? Be curious about that. Think about what is a need versus a want. Think about the risk, not just to yourself, but to the store employees, your fellow shoppers, and your family. No answer that an individual can give will be universal. So be curious about why others make the decisions that they do. But recognize that when people are doing their best, judgments don't benefit anyone. Be curious about how we are going to get through to the other side of this hard and tumultuous point in our history. Ask the hard questions of your boss, your coworkers, your representatives, and your community members. Hold a questioning attitude. Raise your hand when something does not make sense, does not ring true. Sooner or later, the masks will start to come off. Sports will start to be played. Kids will go back into their classrooms. But let your questions guide you. If you don't know it is safe, ask questions until you do know, and let those answers guide you. I am curious to see how things will change from all of this. I want to see what happens when the masks come off. I'm hopeful that some of the metaphorical masks will come off too. That the shared experience and hardship that we have gone through will allow us to be more open with each other, more able to see through each other's colored glass, more willing to let each other see through our own glass. For the ease of information and interaction that modern life has brought to us, it has also led to a less personalized world. When one can curate their own Facebook feed to show themselves at their best light, is there room to be curious about the real person? Is there room for people to ask the important questions to really get to know each other? Is there room to find out if people are really as okay as they seem? If my friends take off the metaphorical masks along with the physical ones, I will be curious to learn what their lives are really like. To allow that curiosity to develop, I will be a safe person, someone that will not judge, so that they can be open. I will have to live with the discomfort of curiosity, but it is to the greater good. And I just have to know, because I am curious. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we go forth from our time here together, let us go with the energy of our combined goodwill. Go with the spirit of our principles. Go with the curiosity of the youngest among us, and go with the wisdom of those that came before. But most of all, go forth and do good things. Blessings to you all.